Welcome back, everybody, to the Alpha X YouTube page for yet another StarCraft 2 replay cast. This one's a good one. It's from the ESL Open Cup Weekly, number 92 EU edition, between these two players spawning in the bottom left. It's our red Zerg player for Team Clash. This is the Italian stallion himself, Reynor. And in the top right, his opponent, our blue Terran player, playing for the Shopify Rebellion from Korea. This is Byun. My name is Rushi, by the way. Forgot to introduce myself, although by this point, you probably know. So glad to be with you guys for another one. This was a hotly contested replay given to me. A best-of-5 semifinal match between these two players on the EU Open Cup number 92. So, felt the need to make sure that we get this replay cast out and ready to go because one of our players in this replay cast had a pretty awesome engagement. Now, of course, you could go out to Wikipedia and figure out the results for yourself, but wouldn't it be fun just to tune in and see how this ZVT unfolds? Of course, both players, very, very strong competitors in the StarCraft 2 scene. Byun obviously carving himself some big wins and big legacies in the South Korean scene. Of course, being a BlizzCon champion on top of it all. Alongside Reynor, the most recent world champion at IEM Katowice. The Italian stallion himself doing a lot of good work in regards to just being a powerhouse in the scene. And this best of 5 is going to be no different between these two players, as we see Reynor already opening up a bit, very aggressive in the economic standpoint, dropping down the third hatchery very, very soon on. We don't even have gas at this point, so it's going to be just a gasless open for the red Zerg player. Quite an interesting beginning to start for sure. Byun's going to have a field day trying to keep track of this, but what's very interesting in all of this is that there was no Reaper opening. So both players already choosing very unorthodox openings, especially for a best of 5 semifinal here in the ESL Open. It's not going to be super unorthodox all the way through for Byun. It will be a 1-1-1 opening to keep things pretty stock standard. But now finally at the 2-minute 40-second mark, we are going to get gas down here for Reynor. So what's Reynor going to anticipate doing here in this series? He's more than likely going to try and get some good economic flow going here. His production's going to be spiked a little bit down the road just because he's got so much more access to his preferred larva count just with the additional hatchery early on. And since Byun is not really punishing this early on in game number 1, I mean, he gets to benefit from it. He doesn't have to do any advanced defense. I mean, he brought the queen out to the third base location really early on just to make sure that units don't show up early, and then that base is left undefended while units just kind of pick away. But now it's going to come down to pretty good scouting here. Reynor will be able to see a very advanced force of Byun moving out. Will this be able to get away? Not really. Nah. But it buys a lot of time here. Queens are going to be able to get down to the front side. Creep spread is already in a really good spot as the 3 bases are working on getting connected. And this is one of the advantages of having that very early third base, is that creep spread is going to push out so far. We're at the 4-minute mark, and already we see creep just at the outskirts of his base, which is going to give great perimeter and a lot of opportunities for good scouting and good interceptions. Like this medevac here is going to have to zoom around, but that allows Reynor the opportunity to get into the main base. And he's got a queen waiting already. Byun, so well known for his very quick harassment and making the most out of just a few units, and Reynor able to stay on top of him even without Ling speed, and hopefully that's something that Byun has registered here. He's been able to see the pack of Lings going around so far, and he should have noticed by now that those Lings still don't have metabolic boost. That's going to be finishing up in about the next 10 seconds, but that should give some really strong indication that there were a lot of corners cut here in getting this third base up. We do have a Banshee in the production tab here alongside the Banshee Cloak, so that is going to provide additional harassment opportunities here, but Byun's going to have a lot of opportunity. It's Hellbat timing alongside Marines, alongside a Banshee. Whew. This is going to be a lot of damage already kind of taking shape here. A nice spine crawler anchored down at the third base location, and one of the units just driving on in gets picked off. I believe it was the Banshee, if I would be correct. It was immediately just taking care of some of the dangerous tech that was available here. Reynor is all over this defense. Immediately does some scouting as well. He has a ling up into the main base, and that's going to be some great scouting potential. But Byun not satisfied with his push. He's got to be really disappointed here. Wants to try and draw the queens forward into a choke. That's going to give him a lot of surface area to attack with and really put those queens in a bind. But Reynor stays on the high ground. Look at the supply difference, 99 to 66. If we look at the units lost tab, that defense was almost perfect. One Overlord went down on the scouting end, and then 9 Zerglings. That's it. That's it. That's an incredible defense here at the opening onset of this first game number 1. So all in all, great micro back and forth here. Those queens are going to be able to work down that medevac, and the medevac just goes down. It's a full surround on all of these units. Sure, all of the lings are going to get picked off in the process, but every single piece of biotech is gone. The queens have been roughly kept alive here with a lot of decent situations. There's a 4th base on the way. We have centrifugal hooks in the production tab, and Byun is still stuck on 2 bases here. He does have the 3rd command center, but it's not even out to an orbital just yet. We have additional bio on the way here for Byun. Things are rolling around. The upgrades are a little bit behind, but a lot of that was kind of brought into place because of the timing here, getting for a little bit more aggressive on the opening side. And excuse me, I need to clear this up. That's not a 4th base over here. That's a 5th base coming up. Reynor completely saturated on 71 workers right now. This is just textbook. It's a textbook ZVT from the Italian Zerg player right now. Very, very well managed, very, very well attacked. This is going very, very well for Reynor. And 144 to 101 is a supply count that just cannot be denied. 2 tanks are going to be helpful in the defense, but that's not going to be near enough to try and slow down Reynor as he moves along. So we are going to get a nice little Lingbane run by here. The tank should draw a decent amount of fire onto the incoming Zerglings. What are the Banelings going to do? They're going to try to get into the natural here. One tank going to try and shut things down, but that's just going to be so many SCVs taken care of. Reynor rolls over his opponent here in game number 1 and sets up a 1-0 lead in this best of 5 in the semifinals. Game number 2 already underway here, and it seems like the Red Terran player not happy with how things shaped up in game number 1. Immediately sending out units for a little cheeky proxy barracks here. What an outstanding situation here for the Blue Zerg, who's also decided to open up with a spawning pool. What insanity here. I mean, this isn't uncommon for Byun to try and do. I think we've definitely seen this out of the Terran player in the past. If a series starts to not go his way, he just wants to gain a little bit of leverage and send his opponent off kilter. But Reynor's no secret to that. I mean, he plays on the EU server. There's a lot of very aggressive, unique playstyles that are brought to him all the time when he goes up against other Terran opponents on the EU server. So Byun not going to necessarily catch his opponent off guard, especially since it is going to be a very early pool, but could be a capital situation here just because Byun's micro is so crispy. It's so good. We're going to have to see what the Terran player can make of this game number 2. But look at this. Reynor going straight into a Roach Warren? I don't know how I feel about this, actually. He's going to have the Lings to be able to push off this opening bunker placement, but is this going to be the right kind of call? I don't know if roaches are going to be an early response to this type of pressure, especially since now there is going to be a bunker down on the low ground. I really feel like there needs to be lings on the production tab. What are these lings going to go do? I mean, this is just going to become a wall here in a moment, and suddenly that's going to be a bit of a problem for Reynor, who's not going to be able to really capitalize on that. 2 roaches on the way. There's not enough Marines here just yet for this to become a major problem, and it's only 1 gas at this point for Reynor, so Ravagers are going to be few and far in supply, especially if that roach count continues to climb, and it is at this point. First bunker's going to be able to finish up. Doesn't matter if he loses this natural. I'm not sure that it's going to be a major issue. Of course, obviously, he doesn't want to get locked into his base forever, but this is kind of a scary moment here. Is this enough to really deal with this? Oh, this is kind of getting scary. One of the bunkers does get reclaimed here. The roach micro, very, very good here. A couple of those roaches do end up going down. Is this bunker going to be able to fall? Yes, it will. And I believe there are enough roaches to hold this back. And suddenly, this is looking outstanding here. I mean, there's no units back at the main base for Byun, so despite the fact that he has to pull a couple of SCVs to maintain the repair and order on the top of that ramp, he really doesn't lose that much. So, all in all, it's a couple of units lost for Byun, but it's a great hold for Reynor, who's now able to capitalize on having that second hatchery at the natural. Call it a hatchery if you want. Just give me credit in the future. But now he's got to be able to hold just on a couple more pushes here as there are continued Marines being produced. The barracks have been flown back home, but these Ravagers are really, really soft targets for the bullets of these Marines. And we have to make sure that this does not end up pushing over the blue Zerg opponent, because unit-wise, there's not much here. There's a couple of Queens, a couple of Ravagers, and that's it. That's it. These units are not going to be able to survive too long if, for some reason, Reynor just falls apart on the defense, and it looks like he is going to be okay at this point as he sets up. He is going to get a decent scout off on the fact that there is a command center going down into the natural and expand on the gas, and the unit count here for Byun is going to be helpful, but once again, Byun finds himself sizably down on the supply count. Okay, both the barracks have made it back home here. It is going to be a reactor on the factory, so more than likely going to see either some Hellions or maybe even some mines at this point. There's going to be a Raven coming out alongside that Banshee that just popped out. No Banshee cloak at this point, so that's something worth considering. The Overlord is going to scout that we do have some movement happening here, but he isn't going to see that the barracks gets dropped down as a response. Of course, Byun knows that Reynor is in a much more aggressive position than he is, so he does need to lay back just a little bit, but that seems against Byun's MO, right? Byun is always the aggressive one. He's the one that's constantly in your face, trying to make things a little bit more complicated for his opponent. But in this case, Reynor is the one that's all over the complications. He has enough units back at home that Byun can't just randomly run in unless he has a sizable force. And if too much comes across the map, what's stopping Reynor from just slamming down the Z key and sending a whole bunch of units out across the map? There's no tanks. And with no tanks, that's going to be problematic. Now, as I say that, tanks going to be in the production tab. We are going to see the Banshee come in here and try and get a little bit of harassment done at this point, but there should be plenty of Queens to deal with this. And actually, Spore Crawlers at a couple of different locations helping out immensely to aid in that defense. Raven's going to be able to get a couple of kills. It's not going to be an overwhelming amount, although that drone just floated back to its doom, unfortunately. Bit of an unfortunate situation here. Actually, take a look at this situation here. Despite the fact that Reynor has been able to manage this opening, everything is kind of equalized here. It's not super far off, 91 to 74. Raynor's obviously in a much better location in terms of where he wants to head in this later stages of the game. But Byun has remarkably closed the gap. He's forced Reynor into staying back a little bit longer than he otherwise might have wanted to. It was a pretty wicked supply block there for a moment, but that seems to have been cleared up at this point. Banshee's going to be able to pick away at an extractor, but not having the 6th gas at this point just off of pure roach production is not going to be a huge overarching deal for the Blue Zerg. There's lots of more concerning targets to lose at this point. And losing access to an extractor for a period of time, not a major deal. And Byun recognizes that. He pulls back that Banshee because he wants to try and find additional targets. Queens have done a really good job of softening up these air units. I'm surprised they actually haven't been repaired at this point. But here comes a pretty wicked timing. +1 infantry just about to finish up. Gleober Constitution is going to give a little bit more positioning value for Reynor's Roaches, but this is still a sizable bioforce. This is a bioforce that, in the right circumstance, in the right engagement, could overwhelm a Roach Queen force of Reynor. But I think Reynor is going to do an okay job of scouting this out and staying on top of it. Byun not going to overextend either. Take a look at this supply climb, though. 142 to 112. Reynor's sitting on 70 workers on top of it. Byun can't afford to let this go on too much longer. He needs to find a way to deal with this. And unfortunately, Reynor's going to bring the party to him now. He grabs 2 of the tanks and 1 of the medevacs on the initial bile drops. And that is a huge blow to Byun's pushing power here. He's not going to be able to really move forward. He's now down just to 2 tanks. And he's going to try once again to leverage an advantage. And Byun is just not going to be able to do a whole lot here. He's going to get stuck on the low ground. A great anti-armor missile here by the Raven to try and make this army a little less squishy, and Reynor's going to have to back up now. That will give Byun a little bit of positioning power to get outside of this 3rd base location, but even still, there's a lot of creep that still needs to clear off before Byun's going to feel really comfortable moving his army into a siege location here, and that's just going to be way too many roaches here. No energy on the Raven means that there will not be any more anti-armor missiles, and 1 queen to going to be able to clean up the Banshee. So now what do you have? A lost tank on top of it? Yeah, Byun's going to have to tap out there. GG is called, and game 2 goes to the dominant player in blue, up 2-0 in this best of 5. A surprising score here. Reynor up 2-0. Not surprising in the sense that Reynor's not capable of winning against the Terran player, but that he's been able to do so confidently that Byun is now going to run out to another proxy. Another proxy here in game number 3. I mean, the tournament is currently on the line here for him. If he loses one more time, he's out in the semifinals of the ESL Pro number 92. But this time it is going to be slightly different here. It was a 2 racks proxy in game number 2, and fittingly, game number 3, it's a 3 racks proxy. So Byun wanting to be a little bit more aggressive here. Reynor does the smart thing, though. He's anticipating this possibly coming here in game number 3, opens up with the spawning pool initially once again. This is just very, very calculated play by the Blue Zerg player from Italy. So with this being a 3 racks proxy, this is a much more invested opening here. 2 racks you can kind of navigate out. If things don't quite go your way, you can float them back home. You can build your factory in the wall. You can do a lot of different things with a 2 racks proxy. But a 3 racks proxy has 1 goal and 1 goal only. You defeat your opponent within the first 5 minutes. So this will be a very interesting indicator as to how things are going to transform. But once again, Reynor out to his Roach Warren to his initial onset. That means we're going to be skipping Ling Speed once again. And already, Reynor's on top of it here. He's picked off one of the SCVs. He's canceled the bunker. I'm a bit worried, though, because this still needs to have a decent presence of Zerglings, and it's just not going to at this point. It is going to be followed up with additional roaches, so that will be a helpful start here, but is this going to be enough? This is a slightly different opening here with an additional barracks. That's 33% more production here. Ooh. Roaches are going to be able to navigate here on the right-hand side. Enough time has been bought, at least for the second bunker, not within range of the hatchery, but this hatchery is starting to get rather low rather quickly. Is the roach count going to be strong enough? There are 4 Marines out. There are 4 inside. This bunker is actually not going to get repaired because there is only 1 worker at this point. And now suddenly the SCV picks off the building bunker. That bunker is never going to be able to finish. That SCV is gone. And the return SCVs are inexistent. The bunker gets canceled. Reynor with the huge hold here in game number 3. Is he going to be able to capitalize this and shove this all the way off? The Overlord's going to be able to scout up here. He sees that there is no additional units on the tab. He doesn't know where this is at, but at this point, he's got to have some sort of sense where this is coming from. But he gets way more valuable information. He now sees that the factory is down. Reynor knows that he has time on his side at this point. He's up 5 workers. He is going to get additional workers as well, alongside more additional queens. I was like, if that bile would have just grabbed those Marines, I mean, you GG by principle at that point. It's Ravagers. It's additional Ravagers at this point. Ravagers are going to have a better range against these Marines, and especially Marines that have no stim. I mean, that's not a bad combination here to try and to really, really poke away at these, because, yeah, they can fire at the Marines before they even get a chance to really engage. Although one gets really low, it has 5 kills. 5 Marine kills on top of it. That is it's a sizable number. It is going to go down and remain at 5. Oh, that queen is going to stay rather low. This is where Byun is really, really strong and capable. The hatchery is something we got to keep an eye on. The units are going to get pulled off of the mineral line. Drones are able to deflect a little bit of damage, but the Marine count continues to plummet here. How many are left? There's only 6, and 6 is not going to be enough to adequately deal with this. Reynor with a clear victory here in the semifinals. A 3-0 victory sends him to the grand finals of the EU Open number 92. Well played.